I think that desire for community and people of your quote unquote phase of life, that's the term that gets like people in my phase of life. I mean, I understand it, and I'm not saying it's inherently evil, right? I'm just saying it's short-sighted because I think there's so much we can glean from other people, and maybe it's that can be a preference, but it should not be a reason.
Right. And I would hazard to say that more important than the people that are in your season of life are the people that are just ahead of you breaking trail that can tell you.
They can be like, hey, don't go this way, go this way instead, right? Or here's what the word teaches.
There are bears that way, and you are not going to want to go that way.
Yeah. The other wild, harebrained idea that I have, I mean, this is just a throw out, but if you don't have people your age in the church, go out and evangelize people that are your age and see if the Lord is pleased to give people faith that you can now bring into your church.
No, that can't be it.
No.
Grayson, that is too hard.
If you would have went to T4G, you would know that you just need to leave the church. No, exactly. Yeah. So again, I mean, it's
you gotta rub that one back in. You're like, I can't let that hang.
No, but that's where that goes. I mean, where it goes is, are we willing to do the hard work? And are we asking? I mean, if you're going into a church and there's no one else there that's your age, obviously there's a need in that church. And are you willing to say, am I willing to be ground zero? Am I willing to be the person here that is the friendly face, representing my demographic? Am I willing to go out and win souls? And am I willing to go out and do those things? And the sad thing is that most people simply are not. R.C. Sproul said something to the nature of regarding Bible reading, but I think it applies here too. Is it's not that we don't think it's important. We know it's important. We know that it is a vital part of the Christian life. It's not that it's overly difficult and that the Lord has not equipped us for the work. It's simply that we're too lazy to actually do it. And that's true in so many areas, whether it be evangelism, whether it be, representing the demographic in your church and all those things. So anyway, man, we are really camping on the first point.
Yeah.
And
so quickly, race and gender, like those should never be reasons you leave a church, right? We are all one in Christ. If you're going to a church because you're a single guy and you're like, I'm looking for a church with a lot of single women,
we're the ladies.
That's not a very good reason. That's not a good reason to.
I've got one eye on the Lord and one eye in the pews to see who's sitting.
Nice.
So, diversity is good in terms of demographics.
Right. But it's not the end all. It's not it's not the final.
I was going to say, I think of the opposite end of things, right? So over the past couple of years, what has been the big push, but like racial diversity in the church, where you've got people out in podunk middle of nowhere, and they've got maybe, 500 people in their town that are all Caucasian, and it's like, I don't know who you expect that they're going to suddenly bring in that now makes them a racially diverse community. The reality is the demographic of that community is what it is. And so,
absolutely,
right.
It's representative of the community.
Yeah. Now, if your church is saying whites only, that's a problem, obviously. Yeah. But by the nature of the demographic of your community, come on, think, people. Use your heads.
Just as R.C. Sproul also put it, what's wrong with you people?
Yeah, right. There's our soundbite. We just got it.
Yeah. Was that from a T4G? I think it was.
No, it was
remember.
The what's wrong with you?
No, it was a
it's a Q&A at Ligonier.
Yeah, it was Ligonier. Yeah.
Oh, was it a Ligonier thing? Okay. All right. So point number 2, a bad reason people leave church.
But the church is too big or too small. We should touch on that.
Okay. Knock it out of the park, Blake.
It's not a good excuse. Okay, point 2.
You got 2 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. No. I mean, it's. I do think you can make an argument for a church being too big, if you are not connected into body life, or if you're just there for a celebrity pastor, or whatever.
You don't know an elder.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not connected like with an elder or something, I mean, I don't know what
pastor,
you're trying to accomplish. But the argument of the church is too small or too big, again, it's not. Again, this is not a Goldilocks thing. If God has you in a place, ask, how can I? God sets people in the body. The Bible tells us. So, how could I minister here? Be a blessing and be blessed at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Point number 2. Again, speaking in generalities, because this one can kind of go all over the place. But I've personally met a number of people who've left the church or a church, I should say, because they got their feelings hurt.
I have a question.
Someone upset them at the church. Yes.
So those people that you have in mind, did they go to another church or did they stop going to church?
Mix.
Because I think one of the things we're talking about too is, especially when we start talking about when is it appropriate to leave the church, we're never saying it's appropriate to leave the church. We're saying, when is it appropriate to change churches?
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, right. It's okay. When is it appropriate to actually change churches? And again, even in this context, it's not appropriate to change churches simply because your feelings got hurt at some point or by someone.
Yes, and there are certainly, everyone here on this call would agree that there are going to be instances where your feelings were hurt justly, and it was so grievous a thing, you should leave a church. I'm talking about just general dealing with broken people. Someone was rude to you. Blake, I think your example of the church splitting, I don't know what caused that, but the people who were willing to stay and say, we're a family. I jotted down a verse here, and I think they were living this out. And I think this is the mindset we have to have as people. We need to think of long suffering within the church, because we should expect to I'll say this. We should expect to have our feelings hurt if you are connected and deeply involved with people in the church. It'll happen. We are all broken, rude, rotten sinners, and we're going to hurt each other's feelings at some point. But I think that's why Paul says, therefore, a prisoner for the Lord, I urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit and the bond of peace.
Yeah, I always love that verse, because the word that Paul uses for bearing with one another, I mean, if you were to put it in modern speech, it literally means to just put up with one another, right? I mean, we all rub each other the wrong way at times, and so it doesn't mean you got to be the best friend with everybody in the church, but it does mean that we overlook some things in love. When sin happens, we deal with those conflicts and we resolve those things. What we tend to do is we look at a verse like this and we say, okay, with all humility, with all gentleness, patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain unity. Yeah, that's all the responsibility of that guy who offended me. But it's a reciprocal thing. Every one of us is called to this in obedience in order to be able to maintain that unity in the bond of the Spirit, or in the bond of peace, as he says here. So,
I think too, this applies in a lot of different areas. But a lot of times we approach church for whatever reason with just paper skin. I mean, paper thin skin, and especially on this area of your feelings getting hurt. I mean, people will leave a church for things that they would never leave a job over. That they would never leave a club over, that they would never leave a club like a hobby club, not like a dance club.
I think you were the only person thinking
They're playing the song again? I'm out of here. There actually probably has been people who left churches for that reason. Anyway,
I know of them.
Yeah, right. It just the things that you would never leave, your family over, or your hobby base over, or your workplace over. There needs to be a resoluteness, like you guys mentioned, of I understand that I am a sinner and I am gathering with sinners, and things may happen, and sometimes I may be the cause of it. I may be the cause of the offense, and sometimes others will be the cause of the offense. But am I going to allow that then to destroy